The number 47 million can change everything in an instant. But what happens when that life-altering windfall becomes your deepest secret? My name is Sophia Thompson, and 3 months ago, I discovered something that would test every relationship I thought I could trust. If you're watching this right now, drop a comment and let me know what you think you'd do with $47 million. But before you answer, hit that like button and subscribe because this story might completely change how you think about money, family, and loyalty. 3 months ago, I was living what most people would call a completely average life. I worked as a software developer for a mid-sized tech company in Austin, Texas, pulling down a decent salary, but nothing spectacular. My one-bedroom apartment was comfortable enough, though the air conditioning barely worked, and my neighbors seemed to think midnight was the perfect time for karaoke. Every morning started the same way: instant coffee, checking emails, and that familiar knot in my stomach about whether I had enough in my checking account to cover the weekend. My family situation was, to put it mildly, complicated. My parents divorced when I was 16 and both remarried within 18 months. My mother, Linda, found herself a new husband named David, a real estate investor who loved talking about his portfolio more than he loved talking to his stepdaughter. My father, Robert, married Patricia, a marketing executive who made it abundantly clear that her priority was securing their retirement fund, not building relationships with his existing family. I have two siblings who couldn't be more different. My sister Angela, 28, graduated from medical school and married another doctor. They live in a stunning house in the suburbs with their twin daughters, and Angela never misses an opportunity to mention how expensive private school tuition has become. Then there's my younger brother Tyler, 24, who has turned asking family members for money into something resembling performance art. Every few months brings a new crisis, a business opportunity that just needs a small investment, unexpected medical bills, car repairs that somehow always cost exactly what he thinks you can afford. But the most painful part of my family dynamics involved my extended relatives. My Uncle Steve, my father's brother, had built a successful construction business and never hesitated to remind everyone about his financial success at family gatherings. His wife, Janet, would spend holidays critiquing everyone's career choices and life decisions. Their son, Kevin, had inherited their sense of entitlement, but none of their work ethic, and he developed what the family politely called investment problems that everyone knew was actually a gambling addiction. The only genuine person in our family circle was my grandmother's sister, my great-aunt Rose. At 72, she lived alone in a small apartment filled with plants and photo albums, surviving on Social Security and a tiny pension from her 40 years as a library clerk. Despite having almost nothing, Rose was always the first person to offer help when someone needed it. She'd drive her ancient Toyota that made concerning noises whenever it rained, but she'd show up with homemade soup when you were sick or a $20 bill when you mentioned being short on groceries. My history with lending money to family members had left me cynical about their motives. 2 years ago, Tyler needed $3,000 for what he claimed was vocational training. I emptied my emergency fund to help him, only to discover months later through social media posts that he'd spent the money on a gaming setup and a weekend in Las Vegas. When Angela needed help with a down payment on her dream house, I put $1,500 on my credit card that she promised to repay after her next bonus. 2 years later, I was still making minimum payments on that debt while watching her post photos from European vacation. The most devastating betrayal came from my father when he called asking for help with urgent home repairs after a storm. I sent $2,000 that I'd been saving for a certification program that could advance my career. 3 weeks later, I saw Facebook photos of him and Patricia celebrating their anniversary with a cruise to the Caribbean. When I confronted him about it, he claimed the cruise had been booked months in advance and was non-refundable, as if that somehow justified using my money for other expenses while enjoying their vacation. The only person who understood my frustration was my best friend, Sophia, from college. We'd maintained our friendship for 8 years, and unlike most relationships in my life, this one felt balanced and honest. Sophia worked as a paramedic, understood financial struggle firsthand, and never judged my complicated feelings about family loyalty versus self-preservation.
Playing the lottery had become my small weekly ritual, something my family loved to mock. Every Wednesday, I'd stop at the gas station near my office and buy $10 worth of tickets. My mother called it a voluntary tax on people who couldn't understand mathematics. Tyler would joke that I should just hand him the money directly instead of giving it to the state. My father would launch into lectures about probability theory and compound interest, but those tickets represented something more than a chance to win money. They represented possibility, hope, a tiny doorway to a different kind of life.
I had dreams beyond my current circumstances. I wanted to travel internationally to see places I'd only experienced through documentaries and travel blogs. I wanted to go back to school, maybe pursue that master's degree in artificial intelligence that could transform my career prospects. I wanted enough financial security that an unexpected car repair wouldn't trigger a panic attack about my credit card balance. But these aspirations seemed increasingly unrealistic as I approached 30, still paying off student loans and carrying debt that never seemed to decrease despite my careful budgeting. My monthly routine involved a delicate balancing act between rent, groceries, loan payments, and the occasional night out with friends. I used coupon apps religiously, knew which grocery stores had the best deals on everything from pasta to toilet paper, and drove a 7-year-old Honda that made alarming sounds when I pressed the brakes too hard. I'd become an expert at appearing financially stable while constantly calculating whether I could afford to accept social invitations or needed to decline with creative excuses. This was my reality before everything changed. Predictable, occasionally frustrating, sometimes lonely, but stable in its own way. I had no idea that a random Tuesday evening would completely transform not just my financial situation, but my understanding of every important relationship in my life. The night I bought the winning ticket was actually my 30th birthday. I just finished a particularly freshly week debugging a major software issue that had kept me at the office until midnight for 3 consecutive days. My manager had taken full credit for the solution during the client presentation, which was typical but still infuriating. I stopped at my usual gas station, and Ahmed, the friendly owner who'd been running the place for 15 years, wished me a happy birthday. Thanks, Ahmed. Give me the usual, and maybe throw in an extra ticket for good luck, I said, handing him $20 instead of my typical 10. Birthday splurge? He asked with a smile. Maybe today's your day, my friend. Instead of letting the computer generate random numbers, I decided to choose my own. I selected significant dates: my birthday, my parents' anniversary back when they were still married, Rose's birthday, and Sophia's birthday. 6 numbers that represented the most important moments and people in my life. That evening, I ordered pizza from my favorite place, opened a bottle of wine Sophia had given me as a birthday gift, and settled in for a quiet night streaming movies. The lottery drawing happened at 10 p.m., but I barely paid attention while scrolling through social media, seeing posts from acquaintances celebrating much more exciting birthday activities than mine. Around 10:30, I remembered the tickets and casually picked up my phone to check the numbers, expecting nothing as usual. The first number matched. I felt a small flutter of excitement. The second number matched. My heart rate increased slightly. Third number, fourth number, fifth number. By now, my hands were trembling as I stared at my phone screen. The sixth and final number appeared, and I couldn't process what I was seeing. I must have misread something. I checked again and again, turned on my television, and rewound to watch the live drawing. According to every source I could find, I was the sole winner of $47 million. After taxes, that meant approximately $28 million, an absolutely incomprehensible amount for someone who'd been excited earlier that day about finding a $5 bill in an old jacket pocket. I didn't sleep at all that night. Instead, I spent hours researching lottery winners online, and what I discovered was deeply troubling. Story after story of winners whose lives had been destroyed by their windfall. Families torn apart by greed and resentment, long-lost relatives and old friends appearing with sob stories and demands for money. Winners who'd lost everything within 5 years, often ending up more miserable than before they'd won. One article called Sudden Wealth: the fastest way to discover who really loves you and who just loves what you can provide. As dawn broke over Austin, I made a decision that would define the next several months of my life. I would claim the money, but I would tell absolutely no one. Not my parents, not my siblings, not even Sophia. I needed time to process this, to develop a plan, to understand what this money would mean before everyone else tried to dictate how I should use it. That morning, I called in sick for the first time in 2 years and scheduled an appointment with Elizabeth Chen, an attorney who specialized in wealth management and estate planning. Her office occupied an entire floor of a downtown high-rise, and as I sat in the elegantly appointed waiting room, clutching my winning ticket, I felt completely out of place in my jeans and sneakers. Miss Thompson, Elizabeth had greeted me professionally. She was perhaps 45, with silver-streaked hair and intelligent eyes behind designer frames. I understand you have some financial planning needs to discuss. I placed the ticket on her mahogany desk. I need to understand how to claim this while keeping my identity completely private. Her eyebrows rose slightly as she examined the ticket. Then she nodded with the composure of someone who'd handled situations like this before. Over the next 3 hours, Elizabeth explained my options. Our state allowed lottery winners to claim prizes through trusts or legal entities that would preserve their anonymity. She outlined the process of establishing a blind trust, the tax implications of such a large windfall, and the critical importance of assembling a team of financial advisors to help manage this level of wealth. The biggest mistake winners make, she told me, is telling too many people too quickly. Once that information is public, there's no going back to your previous life. I felt validated hearing this from a professional. I want to handle this correctly, I told her. I don't want this money to destroy the relationships that matter to me. As I left Elizabeth's office with a folder full of legal documents and a detailed action plan, I experienced a strange combination of exhilaration and anxiety. I possessed more money than I'd ever imagined, yet I couldn't share this incredible news with anyone. Over the following 2 weeks, I worked with Elizabeth to establish the trust, claim the winnings, and create investment accounts. We developed a comprehensive financial strategy that would ensure I'd never worry about money again, even if I lived to be 100. The money was real now, sitting in accounts under my control, yet my daily routine remained unchanged. I continued going to work, continued complaining about expenses with coworkers, continued driving my aging Honda. The secrecy was becoming emotionally exhausting. I found myself questioning my relationships constantly. Would my family be genuinely happy for me if they knew about the money? Or would they immediately start calculating what they thought I owed them? Would they respect my boundaries, or would they see me as nothing more than a solution to their financial problems? Gradually, an idea began forming in my mind. What if there was a way to test my family's true character before deciding who deserved to know about my windfall? What if I could create a scenario where I needed help, not an enormous amount, but enough to be meaningful? I would approach each family member with the same story and see who would actually support me without any prospect of personal gain. The plan crystallized during a sleepless night spent staring at my ceiling. I would tell everyone that I'd been laid off from my job due to company downsizing. I'd claim that I needed $4,000 to cover rent and expenses while searching for new employment. It was a significant amount, but not unreasonable, and certainly within the means of most of my family members. This would reveal who truly cared about my well-being versus who saw me as a resource to be managed. I created a list of everyone I would test: my mother, Linda, and stepfather, David, my father, Robert, and stepmother, Patricia, my sister, Angela, and her husband, my brother, Tyler, my uncle, Steve, and Aunt Janet, my cousin, Kevin, and my great aunt, Rose. 10 people who had all turned to me for help at various points, all of whom I had supported either financially or emotionally when they needed it. The next day, I met with Elizabeth again to ensure my finances were properly secured before proceeding with this experiment. We had established a diversified investment portfolio, set up trusts for future charitable giving, and created a modest checking account that would allow me to access funds without raising suspicion. The bulk of my winnings remained safely invested and untouchable by anyone except me. Everything is secure, Sophia, Elizabeth assured me, sliding a summary across her desk. Your financial future is guaranteed. You could stop working tomorrow if you chose to. The temptation was strong. but I knew that any sudden lifestyle changes would raise questions I wasn't ready to answer. I think I'll maintain my current job for now, I replied, at least until I figure out some personal matters. That evening, I invited Sophia over for dinner. As we sat on my small balcony sharing a beer, I decided to share part of my plan with her. I couldn't keep everything bottled up inside, and I trusted her more than anyone. I'm thinking about conducting an experiment with my family, I began carefully. Sophia raised an eyebrow. What kind of experiment? I want to tell them I lost my job and need financial help, just to see who would actually step up when I need support. Sophia looked concerned. Sophia, that sounds pretty manipulative. Why would you want to do that? Because I'm tired of being the only person who helps when others are in trouble, I said, not quite meeting her eyes. I want to know who would actually be there for me if our situations were reversed. But creating a fake crisis to test people doesn't seem like something you'd normally do, Sophia said, setting down her beer. Why not just have honest conversations with them about how you feel? I laughed without humor. Right, because my family is known for their emotional honesty and open communication. You've met them, Sophia. You know how they operate. I still think this could backfire and hurt you more than anyone else, she said. But I recognize that look in your eyes. You've already decided to do this, haven't you? She was absolutely right. I had spent the day perfecting my story, ensuring it was believable but not overly dramatic. I would tell everyone that my company had experienced unexpected financial difficulties and had laid off 30% of their workforce, including me. I would say I needed $4,000 to cover rent and basic expenses until I could find new employment. I made predictions about how each person would respond. My mother would express concern, but quickly suggest I ask other family members first. My father would lecture me about financial responsibility while offering minimal actual help. Angela would claim that her children's expenses made it impossible to assist me. Tyler would definitely claim he had no money to spare. David and Patricia would refuse outright. Steve and Janet would use this as an opportunity to criticize my career choices. Kevin would make promises he'd never follow through on. The only person I held any hope for was Rose. Despite having almost nothing to give, she had always been the most generous family member. Even with her, I tried to keep my expectations realistic. $4,000 represented a fortune for someone living on Social Security. With a mixture of anticipation and dread, I picked up my phone to make the first call. It was time to discover who my real family was. I decided to start with my mother. Linda had always prided herself on being a supportive parent, frequently reminding us how much she'd sacrificed during our childhood. If anyone would help, I thought it would be her. My hands shook slightly as I dialed her number. She answered on the fourth ring, sounding distracted. Hi, Mom, I said, intentionally making my voice sound strained. Sophia, is everything okay? You sound upset. I launched into my prepared story about the unexpected layoffs and my precarious financial situation. As I spoke, I could hear her breathing change, becoming more concerned with each detail I provided. Oh, honey, that's awful, she said when I finished. Have you filed for unemployment? What about your emergency fund? I explained that unemployment would take weeks to process and that my emergency fund had been depleted by recent car repairs and medical expenses. I hate to ask this, Mom, but I need help. About $4,000 to cover rent and essentials until I can find something new. I promise I'll pay you back as soon as I'm working again. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Oh, Sophia, you know David and I just refinanced the house to get a better rate, and we're pretty cash poor right now. Her voice took on a defensive tone. Have you asked Robert? Or maybe Angela? She and her husband both have good jobs at the hospital. I was hoping to avoid asking Dad, I said honestly, and Angela has the twins and their private school costs. Well, let me talk to David and see what we can do, she said finally. But I can't promise anything. You know how careful he is with money, especially when it comes to... She trailed off, but I knew what she meant. David had never considered my financial problems his responsibility. After hanging up, I noted her response in a journal I'd started for this experiment. She had expressed concern, but immediately looked for ways to redirect the responsibility elsewhere. She hadn't refused outright, but I suspected her conversation with David would conveniently result in their inability to help. The next morning, I met my father, Robert, for coffee at a downtown cafe. I chose a public location, thinking he might be less likely to react negatively in front of other people. "You look tired," was his greeting as I sat across from him. I gave him a weak smile and told him about my supposed job loss. His face remained expressionless as I spoke, occasionally nodding or frowning at specific details. When I finished by asking for $4,000 in assistance, he leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. "Sophia, I've always taught you about the importance of financial planning," he began, slipping into his lecturing tone. "This is exactly why I told you to maintain 6 months of expenses and savings. What happened to that emergency fund?" "Life happened, Dad," I replied, trying to keep frustration out of my voice. "Car repairs, medical bills, apartment maintenance. Not everyone can afford to set aside that much money." He sighed heavily. "And now you expect others to solve your problems? What about your spending habits? Do you really need that expensive apartment? What about your subscription services and entertainment expenses?" For the next 25 minutes, he lectured me about financial responsibility, job market realities, and the importance of living below your means. Not once did he offer any actual assistance. "I'd love to help you, Sophia, but Patricia and I are focused on our retirement planning right now. We can't afford to compromise those investments. It would be financially irresponsible." He patted my hand condescendingly. "This will be a good learning experience for you. Sometimes we need to face consequences before we make necessary changes." I nodded, fighting back tears that were only partly performative. Even expecting this response, it hurt to hear him dismiss my needs so easily. My sister Angela was next. I drove to her beautiful suburban home on Saturday morning while her husband was at the hospital and the twins were at swim practice. "Sophia, what a surprise," she exclaimed when she opened the door. "Come in. The girls will be so disappointed they missed you." Her house was immaculate, with expensive furniture and professional family photographs covering every surface. As we sat in her gourmet kitchen, drinking coffee from her commercial-grade espresso machine, I told her about my situation. "Oh my God, that's terrible," she gasped, reaching across the granite countertop to squeeze my hand. "I can't believe they would just lay everyone off like that with no warning." Her sympathy seemed genuine, and for a moment, I felt hopeful. Then I mentioned needing to borrow $4,000. "Oh," she said, her expression shifting noticeably. "Well, this is actually terrible timing. We just bought the new BMW last month, and the girls' tuition was due. Plus, we're renovating the master suite." She glanced around nervously. "My husband handles most of our finances, and he's really strict about our budget." "I understand," I said quietly. "I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate." I know," she said quickly. "Let me talk to him and see what we can do. Maybe we could help with a smaller amount. Or maybe you could stay in our guest room temporarily while you job hunt. It's being used for storage right now, but we could clear it out." I thanked her for the offer, but explained that staying outside the city would make job searching more difficult. She promised Charles after speaking with her husband, but the way she avoided eye contact told me everything I needed to know. My brother Tyler was perhaps the most predictable. After sending him a detailed text explaining my situation, he responded with a brief message. "That sucks, sis. Really tight financially myself right now. We'll figure something out." He never called back, and when I tried reaching him directly, my calls went straight to voicemail. This was the same brother who had borrowed thousands from me over the years, always with emotional pleas and promises of repayment that never materialized. Now, when I needed help, he couldn't even be bothered to have a phone conversation. My stepfather, David, was characteristically blunt when I called. "Sophia, I'm sure this is difficult, but Linda and I aren't in a position to help. Perhaps this is an opportunity for you to develop better money management skills. Have you considered getting a roommate or moving to a cheaper apartment?" When I mentioned that I had helped them with house repairs the previous year, he bristled. That was different. That was a mutual benefit since you use our pool during family gatherings. The fact that I'd been invited to exactly 2 family gatherings in the past 3 years apparently didn't matter. Patricia was even worse. "You're not my daughter," she said plainly when I reached out to her. "I've supported your father's family for years, but your financial problems are your responsibility. Perhaps you should have chosen a more stable career path instead of working for some startup." The company I worked for had actually been established for over a decade, but facts had never been Patricia's strong suit. My cousin Kevin initially seemed sympathetic, promising to definitely help out and suggesting we meet for lunch so he could give me a check. But when the day came, he texted an hour beforehand claiming something had come up and asking to reschedule. He never did and eventually stopped responding to my messages entirely. Uncle Steve and Aunt Janet's response was perhaps the least surprising, but still painful. "Well, Sophia, I always said that tech industry seemed unstable," Janet told me. "I warned your father you should have taken that banking job after college, but nobody listens to me." She then spent 20 minutes telling me about other family members' financial difficulties and how they had overcome them without asking for handouts. By the end of that week, I had been rejected, lectured, ignored, and criticized by 7 different family members who had all received my help at various points. The experiment had confirmed my worst suspicions about my family, but the reality was still emotionally devastating. Then my phone rang. It was Rose. "Sophia, sweetheart, I just heard from your mother about your job. Are you doing all right?" Her voice was warm with genuine concern. I hadn't actually reached out to Rose yet, planning to call her the following day. The fact that she had contacted me first, after hearing about my situation secondhand, spoke volumes. "I'm managing, Rose, but it's been tough," I said, the emotion in my voice now completely real. "Listen, I want to help," she said without hesitation. "Can you meet me for lunch tomorrow?" My treat, of course. The next day, we met at a small diner near her apartment. Rose looked exactly as she always did, silver hair in a simple bun, wearing a cardigan with mismatched buttons, and carrying a purse that had seen better decades. She hugged me tightly before we sat down. "I'm so sorry about your job, honey. That company never deserved you anyway." As we ate, she asked thoughtful questions about my job search and offered to contact some former colleagues who might have connections in the business world. Then, after our plates had been cleared, she reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "I want you to take this," she said, sliding it across the table. "It's $3,000. I know it's not the full amount you need, but it should help with rent." I stared at the envelope in shock. "Rose, I can't accept this. This is too much." "Nonsense," she said firmly. "Family helps family. And I want you to know something else." She reached across the table and took my hand. "If you need a place to stay to save on rent, my couch pulls out into a bed. It's not fancy, but you're welcome for as long as you need." Tears filled my eyes, and this time they were completely genuine. "Thank you," I whispered, overwhelmed by her generosity. "Now, don't worry about paying this back right away," she continued. "Get back on your feet first. Find a job you actually enjoy this time. Life's too short to work somewhere that doesn't appreciate you." As we left the diner, Rose hugged me again. "You're gonna be fine, Sophia. You're smart and talented. This is just a temporary setback." Driving home, I clutched the envelope containing $3,000, money I now knew represented nearly all of Rose's savings. I had discovered through my research that she had been quietly managing complications from arthritis, and her medication costs had recently increased significantly. She'd been taking on extra tutoring work to make ends meet. The knowledge hit me like a physical blow. Rose, who had so little, had given me almost everything she had without hesitation or conditions. Meanwhile, my mother, who had recently spent $6,000 on a kitchen renovation, couldn't spare $4,000 to help her daughter with rent and basic expenses. The contrast between Rose's response and everyone else's couldn't have been more stark. The only person who had offered genuine help was the one with the least to give. After meeting with Rose, I felt a strange mixture of heartbreak and clarity. 7 people who had repeatedly asked for and received my help over the years could not or would not return the favor when I needed them, but one person had given me almost everything she had, along with unconditional love and support. The next day, I invited Rose to my apartment for dinner. As she settled onto my worn couch, I noticed for the first time how tired she looked, the fine lines around her eyes deeper than I remembered. Rose, I need to tell you something, I began, setting a cup of tea in front of her. I haven't been completely honest with you. Her expression remained open, curious, rather than concerned. What is it, sweetheart? I didn't lose my job, I said. The company is fine. I made up the story to see who in the family would help me if I needed it. Rose was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. I see. Are you angry with me? I asked, suddenly afraid of losing the one genuine relationship I had discovered through this experiment. She considered the question thoughtfully. No, not angry. Sad, maybe. Sad that you felt you knew to test people this way. She took a sip of her tea. But I understand why you did it. Our family hasn't always treated you fairly. You were the only one who offered to help, I told her. Everyone else had excuses or just ignored me completely. Rose sighed. People show you who they really are when helping becomes inconvenient. I learned that lesson myself many years ago. What do you mean? She set down her cup and folded her hands in her lap. Did I ever tell you the real reason my husband and I divorced? I shook my head. The family story had always been vague, something about growing apart. I inherited some money when my father died, about $30,000. Not a fortune, but significant for us at the time. My husband immediately had plans for how we should spend it, mainly on investment opportunities his friends had told him about. She smiled sadly. I wanted to save most of it, maybe use some for home improvements we actually needed. We argued about it for months. What happened? I asked. One day, I discovered he had forged my signature and withdrawn most of the money without my knowledge. By the time I found out, it was gone, invested in a restaurant venture that failed within 6 months. She shook her head at the memory. When I confronted him, do you know what he said? That it was our money, not just mine, and he had every right to make decisions about how to use it. I was shocked. I had no idea, Rose. The family preferred the growing apart story. Less messy that way. She reached for my hand. The point is, I learned that some people see you as a resource rather than a person. It's a painful lesson, but an important one. Her words resonated deeply with me. In that moment, I made a decision that would change both our lives. Rose, there's something else I need to tell you. Something big. I took a deep breath. I won the lottery 3 months ago. $47 million. Her eyes widened, but she remained silent, waiting for me to continue. I haven't told anyone else, not my parents, not my siblings, not even my best friend. You're the first person to know. Oh, Sophia, she breathed. That's life-changing. I know, and that's exactly why I did this test. I needed to know who would be there for me without knowing about the money. Rose nodded slowly. I understand that completely. But what will you do now? That's what I'm trying to figure out, I said. The money is secure and I have excellent financial advisors, but I don't know how to handle the family situation. Rose considered this carefully. You know you don't owe anyone anything, Sophia, not even me, but I want to help you. I insisted. Your medical expenses, a better living situation, whatever you need. She smiled gently. I don't need much from you, sweetheart. I'm content with my life. My apartment is small, but it's filled with things I love. My car runs most days. I have my books and my garden. And now I have this wonderful secret shared with my favorite niece. She patted my hand. Just knowing you're secure and happy is enough for me. Her selflessness brought tears to my eyes. Here was someone who had given me nearly everything she had when she saw I was struggling, and now was asking for nothing in return despite knowing I had millions. The contrast with the rest of my family's behavior was heartbreaking and illuminating. As we talked late into the night, I realized that Rose had taught me the most valuable lesson of all. Real love doesn't keep score. It gives freely, without expectation. but it also respects dignity and boundaries. It's consistent and honest, present during both good times and difficult periods. The money hadn't changed who anyone was. It had simply revealed who they had been all along. My family's rejection of my request for help wasn't about their financial situations. It was about their priorities and their view of our relationships. Rose's generosity wasn't about her bank account. It was about her character and her love for me. Over the following weeks, I made several important decisions. I worked with Elizabeth to establish a trust that would provide Rose with excellent medical care and a comfortable retirement, structured as monthly payments that would feel like a gift rather than charity. I bought her a small, accessible house just a few blocks from where I planned to move. Nothing extravagant, but comfortable and safe. I also decided to leave my job and establish a nonprofit organization focused on helping elderly people living alone, especially those estranged from their families. The work gave me purpose in a way my corporate job never had, and within 6 months, we had helped over 100 seniors in our community. As for the rest of my family, I maintained polite but distant relationships. I attended holiday gatherings and exchanged birthday worshies, but the pretense of closeness had dissolved. Without the expectation of emotional intimacy that had never really existed, our interactions became less painful for me.
None of them ever learned about my lottery winnings. As far as they knew, I had simply found success in nonprofit management. They seemed to accept this explanation without much curiosity, which told me everything I needed to know about their interest in my actual life.
There were moments of temptation to reveal the truth, particularly when Tyler called asking for money for another business venture, or when Angela complained about the cost of her kitchen renovation. But each time I remembered the silence when I had truly needed help, and the choice became clear. Interestingly, there were occasions when family members genuinely needed assistance. When my father had chest pains and faced unexpected medical bills, I anonymously covered them through the hospital's assistance program. When Kevin finally entered treatment for his gambling addiction, I made an anonymous donation to cover his rehabilitation costs. They never knew the source of this help, and I preferred it that way. Rose and I had dinner together twice a week now. Her health had improved dramatically with proper medical care and reduced financial stress. She had retired from tutoring but volunteered at a literacy center, still sharing her love of learning with children who needed it. You know what amazes me? She said one evening as we sat on her new porch watching the sunset. How differently everything might have turned out if you had announced your lottery win immediately. I nodded, considering this alternate reality. The family would have suddenly become very loving and attentive, I imagine. And you never would have known what was real, Rose added. That knowledge, painful as it was, gave you freedom. She was absolutely right. The experiment had been agonizing but enlightening. It had shown me who deserved a place in my life and who didn't. More importantly, it had revealed truths about myself. Before winning the lottery, I had defined my worth by what I could provide to others, constantly trying to earn love through financial sacrifice and emotional support. I had allowed myself to be used because I believed that was what family meant, what love required. Now I understood that genuine love doesn't keep a balance sheet. It gives freely without expectation, but it also maintains healthy boundaries. The money hadn't corrupted my relationships as I had initially feared. Instead, it had clarified them, stripping away pretense and revealing underlying truths. The most valuable thing I had gained wasn't the millions in my bank account. It was the understanding that the people who deserve space in your life are not those who are present when you have everything to give, but those who remain when you have nothing to offer except yourself. 6 months after my experiment, I was living a life I could never have imagined. I had meaningful work that made a difference in my community, a beautiful home, and most importantly, clarity about my relationships. Rose lived nearby, healthy and happy, and we shared weekly dinners filled with laughter and genuine connection. My best friend Sophia had eventually learned the truth and understood why I had kept it secret for so long. The constant anxiety about money that had dominated my life for years was gone, but so was the desperate need for approval from people incapable of providing it. I had built a life aligned with my values rather than my insecurities. Perhaps most importantly, I had found peace. Have you ever had to test someone's loyalty to discover their true character? What did that experience teach you about relationships and family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories that might change your perspective on wealth, loyalty, and what really matters in life. Remember to share this video with someone who might need to hear that their worth isn't determined by what they can give to others. Thanks for watching, and may you find the wisdom to recognize the genuine relationships in your own life.